Melee Influence. I'm pretty sure most of you know what that arcane does now. And that one arcane has greatly changed a lot of melee weapons. Melee weapons that were mediocre or pretty much non-existent in players' minds have risen up to be less mediocre because of that one effect that it does. And in this particular video, you're seeing a weapon that pretty much nobody even talks about because it's quite doo-doo water. Yes, the Tatsu Prime. Using its unique effect with melee influence and a Warframe synergy, we're able to clean the tile sets using an old school strat. Now, what you see in the background footage right now is not Maiming Strike. Oh no, but it is a slide attack build. Now for those wondering, slide attack build? Yes, it's to do with Tatsu's unique mechanic. What's good folks, it's Nightmare Frame coming at you with a new Warframe video. And in this video, we're taking Hydroid, the Tatsu Prime, combining it with melee influence to unleash devastation onto enemies. Alright, I want to show you something. Exo Gokstead officer, sure. Alright, here we go. I know. Funny, right? You'll never see these guys. Ever. Steel Path Modifier. Level 225. Yet we just wiped them with slide attacks very easily. All this is to do with Hydroid and his passive mixing up with melee influence and the Tatsu Prime and its unique trait. But before that, let's have a look at what Tatsu actually does. The Tatsu Prime is a two-handed Nikana, so it's the brother and sister of the Azothane, Pennant, and Tenant Livia. That archetype. Looking at the stats, they're actually mediocre. Now, usually you would think, hey, it's a two-handed Nikana. It should be really good with slash, but holy heck, that slash is non-existent. And it has radiation damage. This is one of Revenant's signature weapon. But let's take a look at the unique traits. Melee kills produce up to 5 charges that release on a slide attack, homing and stunning enemies with radiation damage. When you kill an enemy with any strike, you'd store up a charge. And then when you perform a slide attack, you release these souls. They look like snakes or dragons. You know that ephemera that swirls around you? Yeah, they look like that. And this homing is 30 meters. So it tracks down enemies within 30 meters. What I'm saying, this can be a room clearing nuke with melee. However, these charges do have a unique weird mechanic. Unfortunately, they do not scale with prime pressure points. Weird. And here's another thing. They scale multiplicatively with condition overload. Oh, okay, yeah, now we're turning some heads. Another thing is that these souls can trigger melee influence. And what happens when you trigger melee influence? You just need to have an electric status effect. And when you mod elemental damage on the Tatsu, those souls inherit the elemental damage types that you have. So if you have viral, they seek out and also deal viral along with the radiation. And the electric can trigger melee influence on top of that. So all you have to do is kill an enemy, perform a slide attack, and you release souls. Let's go demonstrate how this looks like. Now that I've killed some enemies and built up some charges, when I perform a slide attack, you'll see I'll send out these projectiles at enemies. And those projectiles also triggered melee influence right there. Very cool, right? Just simple attacks. I'm instantly armor stripping and killing enemies. Then perform a slide attack, they track to enemies and they die. Pretty damn good. Now, why are they getting stripped so quickly and I have no Archon shards? Well, it's all to do with Hydroid's passive. Enemies damaged by Hydroid are more vulnerable to the corrosion status effect, with the initial status reducing armor by 50%. Now, for those who don't know, the corrosive status effect stacks up to 10 times, and still it's not a full armor strip. It's only an 80% armor strip. That's why you see a lot of Warframes equipping the green shards with the +2 stacks of corrosive. So you would need 14 stacks to get a full armor strip. However, Hydroid does not need that. With 10 procs, he instantly strips armor. And he easily gets the corrosive damage type thanks to his third ability, Plunder. You don't even need an augment with this. Unfortunately, it does have the snapshotting issues, meaning if you activate this ability on 2 enemies, you'll get a percentage. and then you trigger on one enemy, you get a lot less. It snapshots the newer buff every single time. So try to target a decent amount of duration and a decent amount of enemies. So then you won't have to worry about refreshing the buff here and there. That's why I did go for a lot of duration on this build and a decent amount of strength. Not only that, it gives you armor. So that's good, right? Some damage reduction, why not? And I'm pairing this corrosive damage with the viral elemental damage multiplier thanks to Nourish. If enemies are armor strip, hey, why not have them take more damage to viral? And let's not forget his best ability, Tidal Surge. This is one of the most broken abilities in the entire game. People sleep on this. Legit. Let me explain what it does. Number 1, it's a movement tool. Number 2, it's an iframe tool, invincibility frame, so you take no damage. Number 3, it groups up enemies. Number 4, it primes enemies with the corrosive status effect, which also helps you armor strip. When you pair it up with the augment, it gives you status immunity. And it cleanses you of status effects. I said frick it. I'm not following the numbers anymore. It cleanses you of status effects. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, with this ability active, you won't need Prime Sure Footage. Oh, I'm not even using Tempest Barrage. So it really doesn't matter which one you want to replace, the first or the fourth ability, because the main abilities you're going to be using are the 2 and 3, since it's a melee loadout. Okay, here we are in Steel Path. I'm only going to be equipping my melee weapon. I'm going to look for a nice group of enemies. All right. Oh, here's a nice group of enemies and suck them off. Now I get the corrosive damage and some armor. Use my second ability. I have the status immunity. And what do I do now? Slide attack. That was just a simple slide attack and we already killed a few enemies. That was way too quick. Hey, where are the enemies? DE, please, please. I need enemies. I'm trying to do a video here. Oh, here we go. Slide attack. And everything dies way too quickly. God, please. There we go. We got some enemies. All I'm doing is slide attacking and things are dying, as you can see. Dead, dead. Dead, dead. You see how those little souls track towards enemies? That's exactly what's happening. So it's basically increasing my range, and melee influence is also increasing my range yet again. So I'm able to wipe the floor with these bad guys. All right, we have an Eximus. And we do a heavy attack there and bleeds to death. Because this is a two-handed Nakana, its heavy attack will force proc bleeds. We have viral from Nourish. We got some armor strip. All that good stuff. So we're going to shred everything. Everything. Look at that. Look at that. We'll just slide attacks. But the problem is, I need way more enemies. I need a better open tile set. So if you get a nice circular tile set, it's chilling. You're chilling right there. Really? You're going to bring Eximus now? All right, where are they at? 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 What's the point? Huh? What's the point? All right, back in the Orbitor. Let's have a look at the Hydroid build first, then we'll move on to the melee. You see that little deep polarity? That's where you put Prime Sure-Footed, but hey, you don't even need it this time. So start off with the Arcanes. I'm going to be using Arcane Fury. So Arcane Fury gives me that melee damage when I crit, and you have 22% crit chance. And I'm not going to be modding any crit chance on my melee weapon, but that 22% crit chance also works on the souls. They will track and seek out enemies, boom, crits, and that gives us the uptime on Arcane Fury because I won't be using Prime Pressure Point on the melee. And then for the other Arcane, I will be using Strike. This increases my attack speed. So on hit, 15% chance to get 40% attack speed because letting animation shine is bad. Right off the bat, I'm going to be using Tidal Impunity. This is the second ability augment that clears status effects and grants me status immunity. Pretty good, pretty good. All right. In the aura, I'll be running Growing Power because we want a lot of strength here. Not that much, but decent amount of strength that we won't have to worry about things. And in the Exila, since we're not using the best mod in the game, I say, hey, why not add a bit more strength? So, boom, Power Drift. Why not? 50% more power. To be honest, you can use whatever you want here. It doesn't matter. The Excellence slot is free. Now, to continue off with the strength increase, I'll be putting Blind Rage. Blind Rage gives you 99% ability strength. It reduces your efficiency, but you don't have to worry about that because we have Nourish. Nourish is an energy multiplier. Any energy orb that you pick up or anything like that, you get more of it thanks to Nourish. Now, to add on to that strength just a bit more, I'll be running Umbral Intensify. This is 45% more strength, so I get a total of 258 thanks to Boom, Boom, and Boom, and 25% bonus with Growing Power. And if you want, you can also use the Madurai Focus School to give you that 40% more strength with Sling Strength, which I do tend to use here and there. But then again, the Focus School really doesn't matter on this build. You have enough strength to maintain Nourish. Now, because I want a higher duration on my abilities so I don't have to recast them all the time, I'll be running Narrow Minded. This gives me 99% duration, negative range. Don't worry, we'll counteract that range slightly. And then, boom. Primid Continuity. This gives me 55% duration. All of these mods together grants me 254%. This gives Nourish a 63-second uptime. Gives my Plunder a 60... same duration. That's pretty good. I didn't know that. Tidal Surge with its augment, a 30-second duration. Would have loved it to be more, but yeah, you're gonna have to recast this more than you recast that. Now, for the large energy pool, I'm using Primid Flow. This gives me a max energy of 641. We are running negative efficiency, so we want to have at least enough energy to cast 3 abilities. And to counteract that negative range, just a little bit, I'm using Stretch. Boom. You could use Archon Stretch if you're going to use the Deriga Sentinel, because its arc coils do trigger Archon Stretch. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter. The Sentinel is also up to you. And lastly, for some added defenses, I'm going to be running Adaptation. Before those of you who jump, why do you have Adaptation with status immunity? Read the mod. I'll give you some time. You'll understand this has nothing to do with status effects. Now, for those who can't read, there are people like that, no worries. I'll help you understand. When you take damage from a specific damage type... Listening? So if the enemy does a lot of impact damage, you're like, Adaptation begins to adapt to that damage type. You understand? There you go. This is some added damage reduction, pairs well with other sources of damage reduction. But moving on to the Tatsu, because you already saw I have Fury and Strike. Now the Tatsu is going to be slightly different. Number 1, it's the only stance that we have for this weapon. But it doesn't even matter. You can go stanceless because it's just a slide attack build. But Discipline's Merit is free money if you want to do your Tennokai here and there. Now, to boost the soul's damage, I'm running Arcane Fury. And Condition Overload affects the souls multiplicatively. I will also provide you a chart with all the different weapons that are affected differently with Condition Overload and the gun Condition Overload variants. Berserker Fury for even more attack speed paired with Arcane Strike, because you do not want to let animations shine. Weeping Wounds to increase our status chance. So when we build up combo, we get so much status chance we're able to trigger and proc a lot of our modded elements, coming from the elemental bonuses from the abilities and the modded elements on the weapons. And on the weapon itself, I have Gas, Virulent Scourge, and Volcanic Edge. The status chance from these two are also additive to Weeping Wounds. So you're going to add all of these together before you calculate your final status chance. Got that? And then finally, Shocking Touch. And you just need to have electricity on your melee weapon, so when you trigger the electric status effect, boom, you trigger Melee Influence. And Melee Influence is going to spread all of your modded elements, minus the IPS. So it will trigger your Viral from Nourish, Corrosive from Plunder, Gas from your weapon, and the electricity. On top of that, yes, even the radiation on the weapon. So you get a massive spread of status effects. Now, for those wondering, they just saw the melee build, now are thinking, hey, how are you maintaining your combo? A few of you would notice it's because of Naramon. No, this is actually not it. I just had this just to show you this is one of the ways of maintaining your combo. But my primary way of doing so is having the Dexterity Arcane on both my primary and secondary weapon. Legit, the build doesn't matter. All you need to have is the Dexterity Arcane, because it gives you that combo duration. That's it. Literally. The focus school that I would highly recommend for a lot of players is either Madarai or Zeneric. Zeneric if you're not doing any mission with Thrax units. Madarai just gives you more casting speed and it gives you 40% strength, which is pretty good. And it has Contamination Wave and Void Strike, so even more damage. However, for every other player out there who's just chilling, whatever, Zeneric. Now for the companion literally doesn't matter. Just you can use the Diriga if you want to do Archon stretch. All you need to have is Guardian, Shield Charger, and Vacuum, because shields are going to be our primary defense. As you saw, I have 1,000+ shields, and of course I'm getting overshields. Yeah, this was actually a pretty interesting and fun build. All because someone in my Twitch chat came up and was like, hey, did you know that Tatsu Souls can trigger melee influence? And I'm like, you know what? You know, the first thing I thought was to use Saren, but I'm like, Saren is of course the obvious choice, but then I would have to run green shards. So I thought Hydroid, literally Hydroid. You can spread Corrosive and you can just give him viral. Yeah, you're just going to shred enemies. It's so brain dead to use. But then again, not many people like to do slide attacks. Anyway, for those who enjoyed and learned something from this video, please do feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Seriously, thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.